Welcome gamers to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming, and on today's episode we're going to be talking about Gamescom 2019 and all the new games and trailers that just came out with it and what we think you should be keeping your eye on. But more importantly, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch LITE, so make sure you are paying attention to the end of this video so that you can find out how you can enter and win it. But as always guys, there's all that and more, so if you want to hang out, grab yourself a beer and let's talk games. Welcome gamers to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We are on episode 18 and my name is Craig Prowse, and joining me as always is the man that pulls off no sleeves better than my dad, Andrew Montemayor.
I don't know if you've ever seen an arm as twiggy as that, but it's real.
Dude, he's flexing and he's pexing on me today, but you know what? It's all for it because guys, we are talking about Gamescom 2019. Now, this event runs in Cologne, Germany, if I'm pronouncing that right, because it's spelled like Cologne, and it runs from August 20th to the 24th. So upon recording, it's only the 23rd. So it's still going today, and it's going to be going tomorrow. So we're pretty much chiming in with what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think we've kind of gone through like the brunt of it already. I don't think they introduced really anything new. I think at this point it's just like closings and demos and things like that for people. I'm sure, there's huge lines for everything, so it's probably just people to get the kind of, last little bite.
Yeah, I would say a lot of probably the cosplay contest stuff's going on, a lot of that kind of stuff. But what we are here to talk about is Andrew and I's take on the top 5 things worth noting in our respected subjective opinion that's happening so far that we think you guys should take a look at. Make sure you're paying attention to. It rings true to us. That's not to say that what we don't mention isn't worth mentioning. It's just we're trying to keep it to the top 5 highlights.
Yeah, I just kind of picked my favorite stuff that I like to see out of there. I mean, there was a ton of stuff there, but again, same as in every walk of life. Oh. Some for me, some for you.
Yeah, a little something for both of us. So I'm going to start it off, yes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the first thing that caught my eye is the new, because we saw a trailer that launched of Streets of Rage 4 that was coming out, but they just did I believe it was like at least 9 minutes of gameplay. And Streets of Rage 4, for anyone that remembers, was a Sega side-scroll beat 'em up type of game that was kind of a response to Super Nintendo's Final Fight that was coming out. In a lot of ways, it was a way better game. It was a game that me and my brother played a lot of. So if I'm reading my notes correctly, the game is taking place 10 years after the last game from Streets of Rage 3, and the characters that they showed off so far was Axel Stone, Blaze, and a new character called Cherry Hunter. So a lot of the gameplay that they did at Gamescom shows what she can do and her fighting abilities, and they're showing that it's still got more characters that they want to release. And as of right now, there's no release date, but it's showing that it is coming out on the PC, Xbox, Switch, PS4. Andrew, did you ever play any of the Streets of Rage games?
Yeah, I played some of the older ones. I always thought they were pretty cool. I don't think I've ever really gotten a chance to go like full front to back on a game like that. I thought this one looked pretty cool, that like now would be my time to just pop something in and just,
My only hiccup, I guess, is I don't know why all these old school remade games from like the 8-bit, 16-bit era all look kind of like this cartoony comic book, because even when like the Ninja Turtles got remade, right, they kind of look like this. Battletoads now
got that different like kind of like gloss
Streets of Rage
to it.
Looks like this. I'm just curious why they move in that direction instead of just kind of reimagining what an 8-bit or a 16-bit character would look like on
like that art shading that they use or whatever for it. Yeah, I can feel you on that.
So that was the first one for mine. Andrew, let's move into yours.
The first one I'll go with would be Disintegration, and that's gonna be hold on, let me get the clock here. That's it's a new, almost kind of like a shooter with some RP, like strategy elements. So it's almost kind of like XCOM with a little bit of Destiny, I guess, if I had to compare it to anything. They showed off gameplay from it. This is the game that's coming out from someone who's the co-creator of Halo. So it's kind of his next big venture. I think graphic-wise and player-wise, it looks a lot like Destiny, with a little bit more extra kind of like flair, the stuff that they usually add for like the pay for it, buy this, so maybe that stuff will come out. I mean, the big note that they were making a big to-do is that it is going to be a complete campaign and multiplayer.
Yeah, I did like that.
And so it's going to be a full game. And so essentially you can be riding these grab bikes, or you can be boots kind of on the ground, and you're controlling other like little soldiers and just moving kind of bit by bit. And so it takes like it's kind of a weird mixture to see something that's like a shooter, but also have tactical style. So I thought that looked pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I would like to see it and play more of it for sure. And that's a game that's coming out in they said Q2 of 2020, so probably sometime before the summer, maybe in the summer.
I like that it, from what they were showing, is that they're kind of, people were separating from humanity by putting themselves into like tech, and then now we're kind of getting into this rebellion where some people want to revert back to being all human,
and other people
are liking the evolution of the power. The concept sounds awesome, so I really like it. And yeah, it looks very much like Destiny. The mask kind of looked like an Iron Man helmet, didn't it? Like the guy's head, to me it did anyway.
It almost kind of reminded me of one of the final helmets that he wears in Gladiator, the one with all the horns that just comes on his nose or whatever.
It kind of look like that.
So, but yeah, those eyes like scream Destiny. I forget what the robot species or whatever is called in Destiny, but I think it looks almost just like that.
If I'm remember listening to it right, I think the guy was saying that it's launching at like $50 though, right? It's not even a full $60 game, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I thought I saw them mentioning something about price, but I also didn't like go back into it either, because I kind of heard that in passing, and then I couldn't find it again. I didn't even think to look it up.
I remember writing it down when I was first listening to it, and then I couldn't find it again before we started doing this. So something I caught my interest that it's a $50 game, a price point for the people.
It'll be another one of those games that now they're talking about launching at different price points for different SKUs for whatever. So it could be interesting.
Yeah, it looks really good, and I'm glad you mentioned that one. The next one I have on my list, guys, was Empire of Sin. This was a game that's coming out from Romero Games. We all know him. He used to work on id Software. He did Doom, Quake.
He's going to make you his bitch.
He's going to make you his bitch. And the game looks interesting, right? It takes place in Chicago. It's kind of like in this Prohibition era. And what caught my eye on it was that it's RPG-ish, right? You level up your characters. I think your crew can accumulate up to 16 people out of a potential 60 characters that the game has to offer. And when you enter combat, right, because combat's going to be over gambling clubs, it's going to be over brothels, it's going to be over liquor joints, but it moves into a turn-based tactical RPG, which is completely up my alley. So, and then one of the cool things that they kept saying is like, depending on who you get and who I get, and then who we mix them with in our party and how we pay attention to them, we could have two completely different characters. One could turn out to be a serial killer. The other one could run off with somebody and fall in love.
That sounds pretty cool.
I do like I like this kind of RPG element that like keeping your party together matters, because that always kind of makes the game more intriguing when you have to pay attention to every little thing. Because one of the main things that Romero was saying is your vital thing to pay attention to is time. Like, it's a real time mover. So I thought that one looked really good, and that is coming out in spring of 2020, and that's going to be on the PC, Xbox, the PS4, as well as the Switch.
It kind of almost reminds me of that. I don't remember what the game's called now, and I think it was also like an RPG style game, to where if you die, like you play as like your descendants and stuff like that, and they can inherit certain traits.
Yeah,
what game I'm talking about?
I started playing it. Gino talked me into it. It was actually really good. Fuck, I just can't remember what the name it was. I have it, and we'll pull it.
If you think about it, we'll come back to that later.
Hopefully it hits me before.
My next one that I'm going to go with is stay tried and true. I'll go with the Mario and Sonic at the Olympics 2020 at the Tokyo Olympics 2020. So, I mean, it's just your classic standard Mario like the games. Yeah, like the Olympics games. Except for this one, I thought was really cool because one, they're always beautiful, and I think a lot of the games on the Switch are really showing off like how great that system like can make it look.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if you saw, but they have a new thing in there where you can do some of the events in 2D, and so you're going back to like flat Mario, pixel Mario versus like flat pixelated Sonic, which is pretty cool.
From what I was reading, it's supposed to be a reimagining of the 1964 Olympics.
Yeah.
So they're doing the 8-bit and 16. Yeah. And they're doing all the games from that era, which I thought was awesome. Like, what a better way to do it.
Yeah, it was a really cool thing. They said that there's 10 of the 2D events. Just some of them that you can do, like the 10-meter dash, hurdles, judo, and then, I mean, there's
it did look cool watching like Bowser fight someone that's like, he's in 16-bit throwing him. I was like, that looks really fun.
It looked like it was like a lot of fun. Also, too, there's, as far as it goes, there's 21 3D events. So, I mean, that's a lot to do. I feel like it's a lot of replayability. But something to really stand out, too, is the new events for this year, which are also making their very first appearance at the real-life Olympics.
Oh, awesome.
Would be sports climbing, surfing, skateboarding, and karate. I didn't
know that. That's very, very interesting stuff.
And that's coming out November 5th. So I thought that was really cool, and I thought that's what was kind of more impressive, too, is seeing it just throwing all this new stuff in there to mirror real life.
Yeah.
Especially, too, because skateboarding's been pretty hot, and I feel like that's becoming... It's not the sport like it used to be. Like, now you have... you don't have to be a Tony Hawk and sell games to be... that hot commodity to be that hot pro anymore. And so that's something that'll definitely, get it into the mainstream. More mainstream than it ever was.
I thought it was interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first time they're definitively putting Mario and Sonic in our world? It's at Tokyo, right? I don't think anything else has ever been established in our world, whether it would be on
I don't remember if the other
Mushroom
ones
Kingdom
were,
or Mobius.
Yeah, I don't remember if the other ones were like in China or whatever. I think was always just Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, but I don't think it had a definitive
this one's kind of
place.
putting that stamp on it, which I thought was very interesting and a very cool place to do it. Is this the first one is this exclusive to Nintendo? Because the other ones used to come out cross-platform, no?
I think this one said it is only coming out on the Switch.
And I would like that. I mean, the more Switch games that it can get that keep it worth buying.
Well, the other ones couldn't have come out on anything else because it's always Mario and Sonic. Mario's not on
anything
else.
I guess I'm an idiot.
I'm thinking of something else. I feel like Sonic and something.
Maybe I'm thinking of... because I'm like, wait, have I played it on the 360? But I guess I couldn't have. It had to have been on like the Wii or something.
Yeah, I feel like it does seem like something that would come to something else.
Or maybe I'm thinking of Sonic Racing or something like that.
That's kind of, maybe, possibly.
All right, moving on to my next one, guys. And again, it's another one where we've seen gameplay about it, but Gamescom kind of redefined what we should have seen, and this was the Avengers A-Day, the gameplay demo that now showed off all the characters that you're going to be playing, Black Widow, Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and it actually showed a boss that was at the end of the scene, which was Taskmaster, which if you played Spider-Man on the PS4, you should be familiar with him. He's a pretty interesting character where he learns your moves as you fight him, and Black Widow kind of gives that cheesy line. She's like, oh, well, I know all the same moves too. Andrew, did this, because I don't know how much I might have to say on it, I just thought it was worth noting that they did show a lot more compared to what they did. Does it look any better to you?
I think that gameplay-wise, it definitely looked a lot better. Graphic-wise, I'm still kind of and
I thought the only one that didn't change anything was Black Widow. I keep calling it Scarlet Witch. Black Widow still looks like shit. I thought everyone else looked a little more polished.
I do think so. I do think the only thing that maybe is kind of weird for me is, I think, Liam Hemsworth is, the perfect size, or is it Chris Hemsworth, whoever it is that's
Chris Hemsworth
is the perfect size for, what Thor should be, without being that over-practical, stupid fucking, muscle-bound idiot look.
I'm more on the
that I think Thor looks, way too big.
I'm more on the note, I think Chris Hemsworth is the best sounding Thor, without sounding too...
Yeah.
Not just too dorky, just too Norse, I guess. Too, human, no.
Because you would have had to imagine that he's been around for all this time, especially being an Avenger, that he still just, talks weird like that without picking up any sort of anything from anyone else.
Yeah, but, I mean, overall, the game looked good. I liked that they kind of showed off everybody's
It looks better.
ability.
I'm still not hyped for it, though.
Do you think it's still going to be a seller, though, you think?
I think it will sell units, but I don't think that it's the hype train that they're looking for, because I don't see anyone flying off the handles for this game like what it should be.
What it could have been doing.
If you ask me, I think this game is too late, because right now Marvel's kind of in the lull, especially coming after Endgame. Endgame was the big thing. We don't know what the big thing in the universe is going to be next. That this game should have come out before Endgame. It should have probably come out at the same time as Infinity War.
Right, yeah, if it had, if we're looking at the time and budget, it could have. But again, this is, being developed by Crystal Dynamics and being published by Square Enix. So you look at those two names, those aren't names you're normally used to seeing anything that lets you down. But, this could, but with this new trailer, it kind of more leaned me to the positive side that this game does have
was a little more
a lot of good potential. And this comes out on May 15th, 2020 on PC, Xbox, PS4, and the Stadia, which I thought was, I don't know if they said that last time, but I think that's interesting.
Well, speaking of not everything being positive, my next game will be Death Stranding. That after watching it, I have an idea kind of what's going on, but the gameplay doesn't look great to me. It's not showing me anything outside of just him walking.
And I think we're of two different minds. I even thought some of the walking looked bad. I thought even the landscape looked fantastic.
The landscape is what caught my eye. That looks great, but anything else that's not is weird. Yeah.
And if you watch the interview that Kojima does, he kind of was saying, I'm going to save this for, I think there's a Tokyo game event coming up, and he was
TGS, yeah.
He was going to save some of that. So he revealed some of it, which was what? It was like the Mama trailer and the...
yeah, and kind of what the story's about, like all these people...
the Dead Man intro with
Mads Mikkelsen.
I'll keep going. I'll think of it.
Anyways, so I mean, the kind of gives some about the story about how like there's a big terrorist attack from these people. It's called like Voided Out, and they don't explain what it is, but they use this power to do something. It's called coming back from the other side, whether that's like life or death or what it is. Because you see like Mads Mikkelsen character who looks like maybe is kind of the leader or something like that. But either way, it kind of really like fucked up this whole like city to where it was destroyed. And so now a lot of people are kind of separating from the government. And so no one's really talking to each other out of like fear, to now where his character is coming back and trying to reestablish communication, get everyone going, you know, we don't have to be afraid, we can push forward about whatever. But it's kind of weird because when you watch this thing, I don't think it really addressed any of like the weird like ghost monsters or whatever they are shit that we had seen before that were completely absent.
And like this thing almost ground, and it turns it into an east to west tribal campaign. He's like, okay, you got to make sure you're connecting everybody again and doing this. It's like, well, I still don't get what the fuck is going on. Like I
don't either, and I wonder if maybe this. I'm not saying that it's gonna flop. I never want a game to flop or do bad, but a lot of people give Metal Gear Solid 5 a lot of shit, which it does deservedly get, but they give a lot of it to Konami and a majority of it to Konami for the way they handled it, which they do deserve a lot of it, but I don't see as much going to Kojima for how much time. Yeah, exactly.
This is Kojima Studios.
That's the thing. Yeah, people were mad, like, oh, you're spending all this, Konami's doing this and that, but it's like, if someone spent all this time and all this money and what they had to present to me was Metal Gear Solid 5, I'd be like, what the fuck, where's the rest of the game? Like, you know, what are you doing then? So is this maybe going to be that tell all that maybe he's not as great as everyone thinks he is?
I hope not, because there's a lot of people who just
I personally love him. I think he's great.
Shit if Kojima,
but I love him for Metal Gear. Outside of Metal Gear, what else do I know him from?
Yeah, and this is a big step away from something like Metal Gear, where he's trying his hand at something, and again, it just keeps building and building and building. We're all anticipating it. There hasn't been anything that's sold me on like, oh wow, this looks fantastic, because we don't even see the guy interacting with. Outside of the base he goes into to drop off whatever, he doesn't interact with anybody. I saw him fall down a cliff and not break anything that was a 30-foot or 15-foot fall.
I would say this is the most overhyped game, and
so
something
far.
That's supposedly coming out. Supposedly, how do you pronounce?
Supposedly
coming out in November. I don't know if it's going to make that timeline. The one thing I do think is cool in this trailer that I don't know why we don't have it in real life is that little portable ladder he has that he sets it up and it shoots itself up.
Dude.
Like, after seeing that, I was like, damn, that's really cool. Why don't we have that in real life? Do we have something in real life?
He just left it there. But it's like, you don't pick that back up and
just let it retract itself or something?
Because I said the same thing. I'm like, oh, that's sick. Wait, you're not grabbing that? Like, is that just some sort of matter that you just turn it into that?
And that's kind of weird and telling of out of this whole, like, long-ass gameplay that's boring and almost nothing, that was the one thing I thought was cool. I was like, oh man, that ladder's badass.
You made it up this mountain on a 30-foot ladder, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing, was the ladder. So that'll be it for me on that.
Yeah, okay. Again, hopefully it does great, but who knows. Number 2 on my list is Darksiders Genesis. Now, this is it's a spin-off to the Darksiders franchise, if any of you guys are familiar with it. And the different thing about this is it's being developed as a top-down kind of hack and slash game. And I was worried, because the first time I saw it, normally when you see a game that you like get turned into something like this, it's generally made into a mobile game. Yeah. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, please do not be a fucking mobile game. And it's not. It's actually being developed by Airship Syndicate, which are the guys that made Battle Crashers, the game I just beat.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So I could totally see the design mimicking the other one. The cool thing about this is that it follows the original storyline of how the Nephilim, which were is this unity between angels and demons that make Spawn, which is how Darksiders 1 and 2 and 3 go off of. This one is a prequel where they were eradicating pretty much the rest of that race once they gained power. War and Strife, who's now making his first appearance. He's the fourth horseman. This is his debut. They're going to go after Lucifer because he's been giving power to other demons inside of hell that's going to break the balance of the world. So I love the storyline. I love that we get a new horseman. It's 2 players. Now, if I was looking at it correctly, single player, you can play it, and you can bounce back between the 2. And I didn't see anything that confirmed it, but I don't see how it wouldn't be a couch or even an online game, that you can play with someone. And then essentially the more combos you build up and do, you can get to what they call a burst, where your guy transforms into their, kind of their demonic looking self and wreck shop. I thought it looked fantastic. Now, really especially quick, if you're a Diablo fan.
I don't follow the series because I tried it and I'm not a big fan, and maybe one day I'll go back and try it again.
So. It's on the past. It's on the past, brother.
Do you think that they're going to make another one based off the fact that, because each one introduced a new horseman, correct. So the fact that they're making this smaller scaled down game and introducing the obviously main person that would have been in whatever the next one was that you play as, or
it's hard to say because I've only beaten 1 and 2. I haven't played 3 to see how it ends, so I don't know if 3 has an ending that you're like, okay, and that warrants the new one to be a prequel to show Strife. You know what I mean? I guess maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. 3's on my list. I
thought you had played that one already.
No, 3's it's on the backlog. I need to play it, but this game, guys, comes out in 2019 on the PC, Switch, PS4, Xbox, and the Stadia. The Stadia is actually getting some pretty good coverage here. So that's it for my number 2. Andrew, what's that Dos Equis like?
My next one will be Final Fantasy VII Remake, which there's been tons of footage out.
I know it was coming.
There's no way you can't talk about it. One of the most hyped games, deservedly so. But there was new off-screen footage that they showed, as well as kind of like a new little trailer and stuff. And so that's kind of just what got me even more hyped, is seeing a lot of the new things that they were showing with it. So even with some of the footage, the moment-to-moment gameplay, like when Barrett and Cloud are getting together, just hearing I don't think it was in English, it was in like Japanese, but just reading the subtitles, all the dialogue, and just hearing how much more they're going for, like how distrusting Barrett really is, and trying to say, this planet's like, fuck, we need to save it, and Cloud's like, whatever, I'm just here for the money. And so I think that, again, like we talked about the other week, Final Fantasy VII is an amazing game originally, and I think it's something that's greatly gonna it's gonna be even better now, having that voiced emotion, having that range that you can feel even more. And something that even made me feel it just off the little things that they're adding was the scene where he goes to plant the bomb or do whatever at the reactor, and Cloud looks over, and you don't really know what's happening to him yet, and you see a black feather fall and then fizzle out, which is signaling, Sephiroth. Very symbolic. And that's when he farts.
He farted all over that place.
That's when he first starts having. That's when he first starts having his headaches and his migraines, or his crazy head attacks where he's hallucinating. Which is different
from the original game.
Yeah, he always just goes like that and shakes his head. But I don't think it ever really implied that he was seeing things or anything like that. So it's just cool to see that mental effect, just like it did in the previous commercial where he's seeing Sephiroth before he fades away. And I think that that's just really cool, just that dynamic between, this game is really going to come down to all the extra things they're adding. The city, everything they're adding to it, the city, the gameplay, all that stuff's beautiful, but the liberties they're taking to add the extra scenes to create the character dynamics, or I feel is really what's going to make you feel like the team, what's really going to care. Because going back and playing 7 now, I'm like, oh, it's sad that Aerith dies, that sucks. But then when you have all these little moments, all these little intricacies, and then to get to that moment where, if spoilers, Aerith does die again, you'll feel that a lot more. That'll be a lot more gut wrenching than me reading a little subtext of dialogue like Aerith is dead.
Definitely. I'm very of the mind that the more, because as of right now, the Final Fantasy VII Remake physically cannot show us any more than what it has, because it's coming out episodically, so there is no more to show. So as of right now, the more I get to see, the better understanding I get of the game. So I really like that we get to see more. The main thing that I kept reading that and watching that people were having issues with is that footage that you see is about 10 minutes or so,
16,
and it's just them standing there filming it. And a lot of people were like, well,
why didn't you just put out...
Is Square okay with you doing this? Is this illegal footage that breaks some sort of embargo? Will that jeopardize future footage of games like that's on a demo floor?
So, I don't think that it was, because I've seen more than one.
I was curious
so it seemed like it was pretty open, and they were pretty okay with it.
Wouldn't there be guys standing there?
But that's kind of what was more annoying. Yeah, exactly. There's people standing there. So if it was no filming, it would be very clear no filming. Yeah, but what's more annoying about it is if you're going to put out this demo then why are you just going to let everyone else stand over shoulder and film? Why would I would have easily watched good gameplay, high quality res, put something on your YouTube channel, and I would have watched that.
Well, that's the thing, though. They do. There's tons of good FF7 remake footage you can watch. I don't know if this new footage showed us really anything more besides a couple of more key moments with like some of the controls, I guess, were different from some of the footage we saw a while back.
Some of the key moments, and like I said, like some of the smaller things and them talking, the banter between the two and stuff like that. I don't think it really gave. Because that was one of my favorite things about 15 that I know you didn't play was the banter between the team and just the dynamic, the way they're talking to each other in and outside of battle really made me feel like just the camaraderie, and that's what made me really care for. A lot of people don't like that game. I actually really enjoyed it, and I wonder if that was kind of why. And I feel like that it's a game I think you would like.
I love the fact that you can switch just to Barret. And like if you just want to play Barret up until moments that make you play as other characters,
switch over. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Because now I'm thinking, okay, when I get to play Vincent, I can just play Vincent or Kate Sith. Hopefully he is worth his weight.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, FF7 right around the corner. So, and at this point,
March 3rd,
exclusively on the PS4.
Yeah. Who knows?
So my number one thing, guys, was Greedfall. Now, there have been trailers again that were before this, but this new Gamescom one, they kind of sat down with some of the developers, which is by Spiders. And before we get any further, I like that name, and I like that the eye is just that hourglass
Black Widow
red
thing. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And they're being published by Focus Home Interactive, and it's an action role-playing game that kind of mimics like what a Witcher 3 / an Elder Scrolls kind of looks like, with game mechanics that kind of mirror what the latest Assassin's Creed kind of look like. Is the best way I think I can describe it. And pretty much the concept is there's this new island. It's kind of like this paradise island that's found with native elves on it that host, magic and supernatural and monsters. And these kind of colonials want to come in and, settle it, conquer it, and you come in as a human diplomat, and the point of your quest is going to be to navigate between these tribes and figure out what side you're going to be on. But kind of like Empire of Sin, it matters who you keep around you. Who you keep around you is going to develop your team. It's going to decide who's trusting you, who's going to betray you. And one of the main things I liked, because every good RPG like a Skyrim says, you can play it however you want. You want to be the thief, the fighter. This game, from what I'm gathering, clearly shows that you can use combat, stealth, and diplomacy to literally move the story along versus just certain scenes that may or may not require it. So I'm really liking it.
How like Fallout is, you can play stealth to an extent, but at some point you have to kill somebody.
Well, there's in this game what they're kind of showing off is the fact that you get to this scene, do you want to stealthily get by them, blow it up, kill them, and that will have an impact on the rest of the game versus a Skyrim. You break into someone's house, all that's going to happen is the guards come after you, and
I think
that's it.
I think it looked alright. I wasn't too crazy about it.
I'm jonesing for it. It looks good.
I felt like it kind of looked a little wonky and almost kind of reminded me of like The Witcher. Almost.
It looks graphically maybe a little dated. It's not the cleanest looking game. I'll definitely say that. But from what it's offering, it's definitely in my wheelhouse. I'm definitely like, okay, cool. Because the other thing is, it comes out. It's right around the corner. It's September 10th, 2019, and I think if I was looking at it correctly, it's only coming out for $40. So it's not supposed to be maybe this big AAA title, $60 game, but launches out $40 on the PC, PS4, Xbox. But it's right around the corner, and it's definitely at a price point I wouldn't mind checking out.
If it ends up on the Game Pass, I'll probably give it a
That's the other thing I'm nervous about is, I don't want to buy it day one and then 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months later, it's on the Game Pass.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So that was my number one, but Andrew, we are moving in to your number one.
My number one would be Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
It looks beautiful.
A game I was already kind of hyped for, but now that I really kind of sat down and watched a lot more gameplay of it and watched it front to back, oh yeah, we did. It's actually my number one game that I'm actually really, really hyped for right now. I don't have anything besides Final Fantasy VII that is right up there with it for me. So they showed off a lot more gameplay and just kind of in depth as far as how the story's going to go, progress. They even announced that they are going to add some side missions, which are going to be straight from the anime, like Goku and Piccolo trying to get their driver's license, and just lots of little funny things like that. And it just redid a lot of the gameplay. That there's some new stuff, but a lot of it was the Kakarot saga, walking around with Gohan and that sort of thing. But just I think it looks better and better the more that I see it. And especially once it gets into after you're done playing a mission and you do the scene and then you earn like the in-game cutscene, whatever it is they want to call it. I think it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely great. It looks like I'm watching an episode of the anime, and I love it.
I do want to do a quick apologize, guys. Our air is running right now, so if the volume spikes at all, it's because of that. It's really hot, and we forgot to turn it off, so apologies if that is something that is bothering you. But yeah, like Andrew's saying, the game looks, the more you see it, the better it looks. And one of the things we were talking about before, you gonna hit it? Yeah. Okay. One of the things that we were talking about before is that this game does follow the original, like the Saiyan saga. It goes all the way up until, from what we can gather, because they just launched the that Cell trailer, so it looks like you're gonna go at least too far as the Cell saga ends. And the thing I've always been interested in is Dragon Ball Z is one of these few franchises that can essentially remake this. I mean, not the same game because they're always different, but the same storyline over and over
and
again,
still be fresh
and still, new interpretation, still sell it and still look forward to it, because that was the same exact storyline as I got in the last Dragon Ball Z game I played, minus a few liberties.
The same storyline as the show, the manga, but, and it's still just.
But it looks great, and the way they've opened up this world to kind of travel around and play. And is it 2 players? Have we gathered that information yet? Can you beat Goku and Piccolo, or is it a single narrative? I don't think they've landed.
I think you can play as other people, but I didn't see anything outside of like one instance that I don't know how that works. Maybe it was for a mission, or I don't know how the story is going to work on that, because even then later on you're playing as Gohan during the Cell saga.
Spots,
So, and I mean, my big question is I wonder how far they're going to go with the story on this game, because I don't think that they would have just showed off the end, which is him defeating Cell and then ending right there. So who knows where they're going to go with that. But either way, I agree. It's a story that I absolutely love front to back. And no matter how many times I retell it, I rewatch Dragon Ball Z all the time, that it's always fresh in my mind. And it's something I could view 1,000 times.
So that hits the end of our top 5 list, guys. But I do just want to give a shout out. There is so much more going on at Gamescom 2019.
Yeah, so definitely go check it out.
Check it out. But a couple of highlights are the Stadia announced that they have Orcs Must Die 3 coming out, as well as Mortal Kombat 11 and Cyberpunk. The Gears 5 Horde mode was shown with the campaign. Sega had a big game that was supposed to rival Civilization called Humankind. Final Fantasy VIII, the launch date September 3rd at $20. Borderlands 3 Endgame that was showing off the Circle of Slaughter and Proving Grounds. PS4 Erica was a kind of this live adaptation game at $10. Exodus 2 Kernels DLC was coming out, as well as Everspace, and so much more, guys. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a massive.
I'm looking forward to that
event.
Final Fantasy VIII. I'm glad we got the release date, and it's literally right when we get back from that trip.
Yeah. It's
right before it. So
it's right before we head up there, and it looks fantastic. So I think we're doing pretty good on time, Andrew. So you had a little bit you want to get off your chest today before we go
I just had a small little riff that I thought was pretty cool.
Walk me through it.
And we were talking about it a little bit earlier. So it's when a game gets canceled, it's always 50-50 on whether or not you will actually see any sort of footage, data, anything like that, but anything could leak from it. So recently, they posted on Twitter images that were from the canceled next Rocksteady Batman game, what they were supposedly working on. There was a rumor for a while saying that they were working on a Batman game where you play in the future as an older Damian Wayne. You're accompanied by an older Bruce Wayne.
I like that.
And,
I'm not mad at that.
Obviously, that was true at some point before whatever reason, and it got canned. Either way, they showed off it's just some artwork, but it's Damian Wayne. There's Harley Quinn. Two-Face, I actually think looks really cool from his redesign.
I'm going to try to find them and see if we can throw them
we'll put it in there. And so, either way, I thought that would be a pretty cool concept. And the only thing I could really kind of hope for that if they're not doing this and they're trying to push the story along would maybe be like a nice Batman Beyond. Would be pretty cool.
Which you're going to be getting in that Arrowverse crossover with Kevin Conroy actually playing Old Man Bruce.
Yeah,
Old Man Wayne.
Only if they do the Return of the Joker storyline would I really be fucking all in.
You already got Mark Hamill as the trickster in the Arrowverse, so it would be kind of interesting if they do some sort of crossover where Batman sees him and they...
Well, I think they did say that he is supposed to voice something like that in this future version of whatever. Good. So that's the only thing I could think of, because I absolutely fucking love that movie, and it's easily the best part of the Batman Beyond storyline for me.
Did that leaked footage for the scrap game? Did it have a title at all?
It's not footage. It's just like it's like art or whatever. Art. Yeah.
Did it have a name? Did they call it anything? Was it like?
I don't think that there was a name. I don't know if that was something that was like nailed down.
Yeah. Like that?
I don't remember seeing a name. It just said canceled Arkham game when I saw it.
Whew. Now I gotta find it, look at it, and show you guys. So that brings us to the end of a riff. Like I said, guys, we're trying to keep it quick so we can move into questions, video game questions of the week sent to us by you guys. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Question 1 comes from Daniel Backstrom on our YouTube channel, and he asked a two-parter. He has the audacity to ask a two-parter. And he says,
yeah, we'll take it.
What is your favorite sequel? And 2, a sequel you hated and should never have been greenlit.
Oh, man. I already instantly know the answer. I'll go first if you need to think.
No,
a sequel that I hate, that I have to retry now, but I think never should have been made, is Final Fantasy X-2. I remember Final Fantasy X's my favorite Final Fantasy. It's in my top 5 games of all time. I remember going out and getting that game too. I was so fucking hyped. Oh man, I hated the gameplay. I hated the fucking story. I hated just everything about it. It was just completely different than what 10 was, and it's not what I was wanting. And now I need to buy 10 so I can play that again. But it comes with 10 too, and I'm willing to give it a go. But that I still hate that game, and until I try it again, I'm gonna stand by that.
I know Gino really likes it too, so he can vouch for it. And what's your favorite sequel?
Donkey Kong Country 2.
Oh, you motherfucker! Okay.
Diddy Kong's Quest always.
I'm saying Donkey Kong Country 3. So that was the first thing that popped in my mind. I'm like, yeah, that'd be one of the best sequels. Although,
yeah,
I do gotta say, I think Arkham. Which one came after Origins? Is it City? Arkham City was
City.
Really
I liked.
Sequels.
There's a lot of really good sequels.
Sequel that I hated was, and I don't even know if I ever played the first ones, but the new Crackdown. I gave it a go, and I was just like, what the fuck was this? Why did I wait? What was the hubbub about this game? Like, this game was talked about for years and years and years, and I never thought it looked good. And I know it has its audience, so no disrespect if you like the game, but I remember sat down, I'm like, all right, let's see what this is all about. And I remember playing it, I was like, what the fuck? This game feels like it's from 2012. Like, they should have stopped development on this game. How long was it in development for? 10 years? Like 5 years before it ever saw the light of day. Like, it's just, it's weak. It feels old, dated. It feels like there's mechanics there that almost are good, but not. And lackluster.
That whole game just turned me off. Even like the marketing for it, just the design of it, I just didn't think looked good at all.
It's perfect for the Game Pass, because I never would have fucking played that game if it wasn't for that.
That is a Game Pass game for sure.
So yeah, to answer your question, Crackdown, or 3, I think it's just Crackdown 3. Didn't like it, but we both landed on Donkey Kongs 2 and 3 as sequels because fantastic platformers.
Love me some Conky Dong.
Some Conky Dong. So thank you, Daniel Backstrom, for the question. And the next one comes from Super Slim 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9.
Who did clarify
he ain't lazy. He wants the 9.
Was not just trying to find a name, that he thought 9 sounded the best. So I would like to throw that out there. Thank you for answering that question.
And he asked, if you had to bring back any dead game franchise, what would it be?
I'll let you go first, because I have 2 that jump to mind, and I'm not sure which one I'd rather mention.
One jumps to mind, and I'm not sure if it would be considered as a franchise as a whole, or just the game developers that were doing it. Is Knights of the Old Republic a dead franchise? Because the last one came out on the Xbox. And
didn't they make a second one?
It came out on the Xbox.
Oh, well.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's done. I don't know if the guys, because I'm trying to think.
There's no online version of it on theirs on PC that's like still running or something like that.
So there's not Knights of the Old Republic. There's Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is the MMO.
Oh, okay.
And that's going online. But I don't think it's directly tied in with KOTOR.
I mean, I would
but
count
I want to
it.
see a KOTOR 3. Like, why are we not getting a KOTOR 3? So if that does fall in the limits of your question, then that's the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, I would like a KOTOR 3 if I could have it, please. Thank you.
Because we're getting another Star Wars game?
Because we're getting another Star Wars game that's not that.
Which,
and this is off the back of the other Star Wars game that got canceled.
So surprisingly, the new Star Wars game would be EA, and the 2 that I have in my mind would also be EA Dead games. Dead Space being the one that I would rather have over the other. I absolutely fucking love Dead Space. I know the third one wasn't the greatest, but 1 and 2, man, just really fucking do it for me. And I mean, Resident Evil took its lumps and took its lulls in some games, and it completely came back, and it's on the comeback tour. and that tour ain't stopping. So I think Dead Space probably could have done something like that. The other game I would have in mind, just because we have the time, I would say is Skate. I love Skate 2 over 3, but 2 I don't think is backwards compatible, so I'm stuck playing 3. But I fucking love Skate, and I think Skate 3 sucks. I'm dying. I am absolutely dying for a new one done right, especially when 1 and 2 I think were a lot better.
I love it. So, but again, chime in. Let us know what you would like to see brought back from the dead. Our next question comes from I'll Give You Mo, and he asked if you had. This one's kind of funny. If you had to choose one video game character of the male gender to marry, who would it be and why? That one's kind of interesting. I had to think about it. I think I wrote something down. Oh, I always liked the way I played Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. Like, if you play the good one, Commander Shepard, smooth talking, you know, the way, depending on how you design him, I guess. Good looking cat, controls the Normandy. Is that Normandy, if I'm not mistaken? He was just a guy that I always thought was, I'm like, cool. I really dig this character. I was invested in this character. You get to play with him over 3 games. I feel like he's a guy that could take you home to meet the missus or his mom, you know, if he had one, but I don't think he does. And I don't know, he seemed like a cool cat. Or maybe Mario, I guess. He always comes to get you if you're lost.
I would probably go Squall. Because I remember when I was younger, always thinking, like, dang, he looks so cool. I wish I looked like that. That maybe if I married him, some of his style and that handsomeness would rub off on me.
Nice. That's not bad either. I was even thinking, okay, let me go old school. Like, who gets kidnapped and your guy always comes to get you? So maybe Mario, but right? How many times did you let this happen? I don't know if the guy has a name, but did you ever play Kung Fu on Nintendo? The game where you're the fucking guy.
Yeah.
And he always gets his bitch. So, I don't know. Maybe he's a gentleman. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. But now at the end of the day, like, think about it. You got to go home and get dicked down by a fat Italian plumber.
No, I'm saying.
After he saves you?
After he's been pumping out fireballs? But maybe the guy from Kung Fu, you get to go see Japan or something like that?
I guess maybe. I mean, I don't know. It really depends on the content. I think I'd be more into looks than what they're doing.
What about one of the Billy and what's the other brother from Double Dragon? Billy and Jimmy?
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
You get a couple of Italian guys fighting over you from the Bronx.
Oh man, I'll show you a funny video later about that. Yeah,
and I'll jump into the next question. So our last question, guys, comes from Gamer Guy, and he asks, Did you guys hear that Sony purchased Insomniac Games?
Well, I think everybody heard that.
Everybody heard that. Gamer Guy. Does that mean exclusives are alive and well moving into the next generation, or is Sony just locking down a studio that grossed them a ton of money with the new Spider-Man game? Love to hear your thoughts. Andrew, thoughts?
Exclusives are definitely alive and well. Spider-Man, they just said sold like crazy fucking numbers. So why wouldn't they lock down a company like that?
It broke a record that I think they were surprised to hit when God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn hit it. They were like, oh, nothing's going to pass this. And then Spider-Man came and broke the shit out of it. And you're like, oh, fuck. So I think the answer is two in the same. Yes, exclusives are doing fantastic because we're seeing Microsoft stockpile studios, right? To kind of gear up for this next, I don't want to call it a console war, but the next gen. And Sony going, hey, well, who's been making the best of our games? How about Insomniac?
The best of the best.
Sir. And he has no idea what we're talking about. But why not turn him into a first-party Sony studio and guarantee that your next Spider-Man game comes on a PS4? Because at that point, it's a guaranteed system.
If anything, that's probably why they bought them, is to lock down a sequel like that isn't going to somehow go beyond whatever. But then again, I wonder what the contract is behind that, because is that like a Marvel thing? Is that like a Sony thing for that game? Is it a mixture of both, that maybe a Spider-Man could come to another console or something like that? Or is this version of Spider-Man only locked down to this console
I think Sony owns the rights for game and movie licensing.
But
I think.
But then how do you get like
the movies?
How do you get like the Black Order has Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, and all them on that too.
Yeah,
so that's why I'm like really curious as to how that breaks down. And another question that I kind of have too is did they just approach Insomniac like, hey, you know what, you guys have been killing it, you did good for us, we're going to give you this amount of money, versus did Microsoft even try to throw their hat into a ring? Because they're buying all these IP, but I still have nothing to show for it. Yeah, I've got nothing
from a studio that we know is coming out. We know Insomniac's going to give us Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
where Xbox is like, okay, you got 1,000 studios, but what do they do again? What game are we expecting?
Yeah, I could care less for a Sunset Overdrive 2, but that Spider-Man was fire.
I really like Sunset Overdrive, but yeah, you ain't getting past Spider-Man. That game was fantastic. So that brings it to the end of our questions, guys. So thank you for submitting them and keep them coming. But guys, before we end it, we want to let you know that we are still giving away a Nintendo Switch Lite. We are on entry, it's got to be 7 at this point?
I think so. It's kind of rounding near the
Connor
end.
Malone will correct us if we're wrong because he always chimes in. Connor, I think it's around 7. 7 sounds about right. So the way you guys enter that is make sure you are a subscriber of the channel. Make sure you like the video and then make sure you comment hashtag Switch Lite. And then you can go back and watch all the previous videos that are required to enter to gain more entries. That is giving you a bigger chance to win. So don't sell yourself short. Go check them out.
Dude, what's going on? I didn't shake it or anything. I literally grabbed it from right there.
Did you put it in the freezer part?
No.
Dude, you are running wild over here, sir.
I'm looking at you. I look away.
Dude, you're foaming at the mouth.
I will say, we do have a new entry for the Switch Lite. I will personally break the screen for you before we send that out. So if that's something you want done for whatever reason, by all means.
I don't know if you can see it in the frame, but Andrew is foaming at his what did you get? You got the 16 ounce
the silver bullets
with the twist caps. So anyways, guys, definitely leave your comment. Make sure you get it. Go back and watch all the other videos, and make sure you do your entry so you can gain more chances to win the Nintendo Switch Lite. But guys, we want to make sure you guys keep sending in questions. Make sure you guys interact with us. And how do you do that? Well, I'm glad Andrew wanted me to ask you because you do that by
dying today.
sending your emails to LastCallProductionz@gmail.com. You send that to Instagram at LastCallProductionz. You send that to Twitter at LastCallProdz. You send that to our Facebook page at LastCallProductionz. And guys, if you're interested in just hearing an audio version of this podcast and not watching on YouTube, not burning up all your those sweet data gigs, you guys can look for us on Castbox at LastCallProductionz. But keep in mind, the only way to enter any of the contest is to submit by YouTube. So that is it for us, Andrew. I think we're done. Anything you want to chime in there?
Yeah, I don't know what I did my day to deserve that, but fuck.
I'm telling you, brother, it knows. So, guys, until next time, my name is Craig Perales. That is Mondru Montemayor, and cheers.
Recently.
Oh, well, that's not good.
But then again, also lately, like
you'll drink a skunked rock.
Oh, but I love a skunked rock though. Or like lately when I go out too, dude, I'm getting like Modelo or like Pacifico and shit like that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting some stuff with flavor.
But I would. But
when you're eating,
But you can't tell me this fucking silver bullet right now doesn't taste leaves.
It did go down pretty smooth. That's
dude,
why
it's so
I'm like, I think one of those and one of those should be fine. And like I'm doing it, and like I'm looking at the clock. We're at like 23 minutes. I'm like, dude, this thing's done. I'm like, I know I'm gonna finish this one before.
I was like right on schedule. I was like, I finished that one and then I'm halfway done with that one.
Attaboy. Hey, we're moving in.
But then again, I would have been further. Like I was like lost in your conversation. I was like, okay, I'm like listening to you talk. I don't remember what it was right now, but like I was just like listening. I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. And then I turned over and the foam actually went it like went up to here.
Oh, what was it? It had to have been the end of the conversation. I was talking about because then just going over the Switch Lite stuff.
Because then I tried going like that, like trying to fucking like get it.
Oh, dude, I was looking at it.
I put like my sweat on it. I don't know how the